Hello friends, welcome to Programming in Your Hands, Part 11. Today we'll be dealing with a very important topic which is called as constructors. Now, we know what a member function is. Member function is a function that is present inside the class. Now, how constructors are different from a normal member function? The main difference is constructor is also a function which has the same name as that of the class name. The second important point to remember is constructors do not have any return type, not even a void. The third important point to note is a constructor is automatically invoked when an object is created. So once the object is created, the constructor is called automatically in the program. For example, this is how a constructor looks like. You have a class student. This student acts as your class name. So now inside the class, we have a member function which is named as student. Now, this function has the same name as that of the class name. Hence, it acts as a constructor. There are different types of constructors. We have default, we have parametrized or overloaded constructors we say, then we have copy constructors. We'll see one by one. And now, these are the different types of constructors as we know already. Copy constructor, default constructor and parametrized constructors. Now, there is a concept which you call it as destructor. What is the purpose of a destructor? Whatever is being created by the constructor will be destroyed by the destructor. How do we know that it is going to be a destructor? Just a simple change. You have just a tilde symbol just before your class name. The same thing will be followed for a destructor. The same points will be followed for the destructor too. Which means the first point to remember is it has the same name as that of the class name, but there will be a tilde symbol just before the class name. The next point is it doesn't have any return type. And third point, that is not applicable for a destructor. That is, when the object is created, constructor alone is called automatically. Once the program gets over, the destructor will be automatically invoked. So now you have to remember that again, destructor also has the same name as that of the class name, but it has a tilde symbol just before the class name. Okay. Now, we'll see a simple program. Okay. We have class which is named as ECE, class name. Now, where does my compiler always comes first? Yes, it comes to main program. Now, you have ECE, OBJ. So once OBJ is created, that is, this is my object. Once this object is created, it automatically calls my constructor. Do I have a constructor in this program? Yes. So I have ECE as my class name. Here I have a function which is same as that of ECE. So it doesn't have a return type too. So it acts as a constructor. So now once this object is created, this constructor is called automatically. So now what will be my output? Hello world will be my output. Okay. Now coming to the next line. Suppose what will happen if I am calling it using a object and a dot operator. Suppose I am calling this function as obj.ece again. Again, it will go to the same ECE function and hello world will be printed twice. But this is not required when you use a constructor. For a normal member function, you have to follow this procedure. You have to call the member function using an object and a dot operator. But when it comes to constructor, this line can be omitted. Suppose what will happen if this line is included? You will have your hello world to be printed twice. That is the difference. So this is a simple program denoting how a constructor works. Now, we'll see default constructors again. Okay. So now we have our main program. always my compiler comes to my main program. You have a class name which is called as construct. Yes, it checks with construct. And what is my C? Yes, it is going to be my object. What is the work of a constructor? Once the object is created, constructor is called automatically. Now it checks for a constructor. Yes, there is a constructor over here. So now immediately once the object is created, the constructor is called automatically. Now A is assigned a value 10, B is assigned a value 20. Now constructors, what is the purpose of using a constructor? It is used for initializing some values. So in this case we are initializing A to 10, B to 20. So that is there in my default constructor. So once this object is created, the constructor is called automatically. A is assigned with a value 10, B is assigned with a value 20. And it sees the closing bracket and comes to the next line. Now what will be my output in the screen? Yes, cout A colon. How do I call this data member? It is outside the class. So now how do I access it? Yes, I can access it only with the object and a dot operator, since this int main is outside my class. So now I can access it only with c dot a. So I am telling it to print 10. How do I access b? Yes, with this object c dot b. Only then the data will be printed. If I am not using c dot, then it will show you some error, because this is outside the class. You cannot access any data which is inside the class from outside. Okay. So now this is about default constructors, and now coming to parameterized or overloaded constructors, we say constructors with arguments too. Okay. So now always my main program, it starts with my main program. Now you have construct, the class name. Yes, you have the class name to be correct, and now you have one object obj1. What will happen if obj1 is being created? Yes, it will automatically call my constructor. It will search for my constructor, default constructor. Yes, there are different constructors here. As you can see, construct, you have a default constructor, you have one argument constructor, another one argument constructor over here. So my compiler will definitely be confused. Yes. So now whenever an object is created, it automatically calls my default constructor. Okay. So when this object is created, this constructor is called. A is assigned a value 10, B is assigned with a value 20. It says the closing bracket comes over here. And what will be printed? A10, B20. Okay. Now construct obj2 of 9. Now you are trying to create yet another object. So we know already once the object is created, it calls the constructor. But you have an argument over here and you have 9 inside that argument. So it automatically searches for one argument constructor with a data type integer. Okay. So now it automatically switches over here. It doesn't go to double. Why? Because it is an integer. It automatically goes to int. Now what is the value of C? C holds the value 9. So now C is assigned to D. Okay. So now after this, it sees the closing bracket and it jumps over here. Now you have construct obj3. You are creating yet another object obj3. We know once the object is created, constructor is called automatically. Now it searches for a one argument constructor. You have a two one argument constructors, integer and double. Now where does it go? Since it is a float value, it automatically switches to double. It has a decimal value, so it automatically switches to double. And now when it goes here, G will have the value 7.8. Now this 7.8 is assigned to M. Okay, now it sees the closing bracket and comes to the next line. You have cout endl, so the output comes to the next line. obj1.b. What is there in obj1? We have A and B. So now B holds the value 20. Now obj2.d. What is the value of D? 9. And what is the value of m? M holds the value 7.8. So 9 plus 7.8 plus this 20 will give you 36.8, and that is my output. Okay. Yes, hope you have understood the concept of parametrized constructors too. Similarly, you can have 2 argument constructors, you can also have 3 argument constructors. Accordingly, you have to write in the main program. So this is about the overloaded constructors. Now you can also try something new. You can try addition with 1 argument constructor, subtraction with 2 arguments, multiplication with 3 argument constructor, and work it out in some online C++ compiler. Try to get your output. And now I want you to predict the output of these. What will be the output over here? What is your class name? Yes, class name is website. Okay, now automatically compiler comes to the int main. You have website obj1. So once the object is created, it searches for a constructor automatically. So now, do you have a constructor here? Yes, you have a constructor over here. So automatically once obj1 is created, it switches over here. Now what will be printed? Welcome to programming. Now endl, it comes to the next line, and you have a closing bracket. Now it comes to the next line of my main program, website obj2. So again another object is created. So this object, immediately it will automatically invoke the constructor. Again, welcome to programming will be my output. So for obj1 you will have welcome to programming. For obj2 also you will have welcome to programming. So this is what you can see in your output screen. Okay, yet another program for you to think. You have your main program over here. You have something called add. Yes, is this your class name? Yes, add is my class name. You have an object here, 2 argument constructor. You have 10, 20. So it automatically searches for a 2 argument constructor. So now 10 and 20. 10 num1 will hold the value 10, num2 will hold the value 20. And see out num1 plus num2. So your answer would be 30. So now for obj1 your answer is going to be 30. Now it sees the closing bracket and comes to the next line. Now add obj2. So immediately it will search for a default constructor. It will be there automatically and assigned with some values. Okay. So now which we call, now we are going to call the constructor with 2 arguments. Now for obj2, what are we going to do? We are going to call this particular function. For num1 it holds the value 50, num2 holds the value 60. Now it gets in. So see out num1 plus num2. So my obj2 will hold the value 110. So in my output screen you can see these 2 values to be printed. But always remember there are separate values for obj1 and separate value for obj2. Okay. Hope the session would be definitely useful for you. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.